A duo whispers in the dark. In the shadow of the pines. In the northern forests of Oregon, autumn arrives early. The sky was blanketed in leaden clouds all day, and the rain didn't just fall. It poured relentlessly, as if determined to wash existence away. Jessica drove her old Ford down the muddy track, the rhythmic drumming of rain against the windshield the only sound accompanying her. She had taken this job to escape the city, the noise, and her failing grades. She wanted quiet. The Harper family home, Black Haven, was located in a place that barely registered on maps, nestled deep in the heart of a dense black pine forest. When the house finally came into view, Jessica involuntarily lifted her foot off the gas pedal. It wasn't just a house. It was a sprawling Victorian structure, with looming turrets and darkened bricks that seemed to absorb the light. The windows looked down at her like dead, unblinking eyes. Mr. Arthur Harper opened the door. He was a tall, gaunt man with sunken cheeks, yet impeccably polite. His wife, Eleanor, was strikingly beautiful, but there was a fracture in her eyes, a hidden terror she tried to mask with a tight smile. "We are in quite a rush, Jessica," Mr. Harper said as he donned his heavy coat. His voice resonated like the low notes of a dusty piano. "Sam has just fallen asleep. He is a very sensitive child. Please, try not to make any noise." Eleanor Harper pressed an envelope and a folded piece of yellowed paper into Jessica's hand. "Here is half of your payment," the woman whispered. "The rest when we return. And this is the most important part." Jessica looked down at the paper. It wasn't a standard list of emergency contacts, the rules of Black Haven. Check that all external doors are locked at 10 p.m. sharp. Double-check the basement door. Never turn off the hallway light on the second floor at night. The darkness likes that space. If you hear someone talking, laughing, or any voice other than Sam's coming from the baby monitor, do not enter the room. Call us immediately and leave the house. Jessica frowned as she read the third rule. "What does that mean?" she asked, trying to force a chuckle. "Does the radio pick up interference? Police scanners?" Mr. Harper looked at her with a gaze so intense that Jessica's laughter died in her throat. "Just follow the rules, miss. It is for your safety and Sam's. We will return by noon tomorrow." They left. As the car's taillights vanished into the forest darkness, Jessica was left alone in the colossal, creaking, and bone-chillingly cold house. Chapter 2. The Weight of Silence. The clock struck 9 p.m. The house was silent, but it wasn't a peaceful silence. It was the silence of a predator holding its breath in an ambush. Jessica decided to tour the house. The interior was even more archaic than the exterior. Portraits of unknown ancestors lined the walls, their painted eyes seeming to follow her wherever she stepped. The floorboards groaned with different pitches of agony under every footfall. Sitting in the kitchen, she brewed coffee. Seeking some comfort, she tried to call her friend Sarah. She checked her phone. No service. "Great," she muttered to herself. "Probably no Wi-Fi either." She checked. There was a network, but the name was strange. "We are listening." It required a password. Jessica shrugged and settled in to read a book. As time passed, the breath of the house began to change. Sometimes the curtains moved when there was no draft. Sometimes a sound like heavy footsteps thump drifted down from the upper floor. The clock hit 10 p.m., Rule 1. Jessica got up to check the doors. The front door locked, the back patio door locked, the kitchen windows latched. Then came the basement door. It was a heavy door made of black oak, situated in the corner of the kitchen. Jessica gripped the handle. It was locked, but as she turned to leave, the brass doorknob began to turn. Slowly, very slowly. Jessica froze, turning to stone. The knob twisted again, more forcefully this time. Someone on the other side was trying to open it. "Who's there?" Jessica shouted, her voice trembling. No answer. The knob stopped moving. Jessica frantically checked the lock again and wedged a heavy wooden chair under the handle. "Just an old mechanism," she lied to herself. "Pressure changes." But deep down, she knew air pressure didn't twist doorknobs. Chapter 3. The Shadow on the Second Floor Rule. 2. Do not turn off the hallway light. As Jessica climbed the stairs, she understood the meaning of this rule. The hallway was impossibly long and narrow, papered in dark green wallpaper that seemed to absorb light. Only one dim yellow bulb illuminated this tunnel. If that light went out, this place would become a tomb. Sam's room was at the end of the hall. Jessica cracked the door open to check on the baby. Sam was wrapped in a quilt in his crib, sleeping peacefully. His breathing was rhythmic. Jessica adjusted the old Motorola baby monitor on the dresser and went back downstairs, taking the receiver unit with her. 11:30 p.m., the rain intensified, lightning flashed, illuminating the living room in harsh, brief bursts. As Jessica sat on the sofa, the baby monitor began to emit whispering sounds. At first, it was just white noise, static, crackle. Then a distinct word cut through. "Jessica!" She jumped up, pressing the receiver to her ear. "Mr. Harper, is that you?" she asked, hopeful. Maybe it was a two-way intercom? The monitor went silent. A minute later, the voice returned. This time it was raspy, wet, like the voice of a man with a throat full of blood. A man's voice. "Don't turn off the light, Jessica. We like the dark." Jessica's heart hammered against her ribs. The third rule echoed in her mind. "Do not enter the room. Call us." She grabbed her cell phone with shaking hands. She dialed 911. Call failed. The landline. She ran to the rotary phone in the hallway. She lifted the receiver. Instead of a dial tone, that same raspy voice greeted her. "They left, Jessica. You stayed with us. We want to play with you." Jessica slammed the receiver down. Suddenly, the lights throughout the entire house flickered and died. All except for that one yellow bulb in the second-floor hallway. It burned like a lighthouse in a sea of darkness. From the baby monitor, the sound of a baby crying began. But it wasn't a normal cry. It was a scream of sheer terror and pain. Then came the man's laughter. "I'm counting his fingers. 1, 2. Chapter 4. The Broken Rule. Maternal instinct, or perhaps just human duty, whatever it was, it forced Jessica to overcome her paralyzing fear. If someone was up there, hurting a child, she couldn't just sit downstairs. "Damn you!" she screamed, grabbing the largest chef's knife from the kitchen. She sprinted up the stairs. Every step felt like an eternity. The yellow light in the hallway flickered, making the shadows on the walls dance grotesquely. At the end of the hall, the door to Sam's room stood wide open. The voice from the monitor now seemed to echo from the room itself. "Are you coming? We are waiting for you." Jessica burst into the room, holding the knife out, ready to attack. "Get away from him, you sick bastard!" she yelled. But the scene froze her in her tracks. The room was empty. The windows were painted shut. The curtains were still. Sam was lying peacefully in his crib, as if nothing had happened. He wasn't crying. He wasn't screaming. His fingers were intact. Jessica gasped for air, leaning against the wall. The knife clattered to the floor. "It's just a hallucination," she thought. "I'm exhausted. This house is making me crazy." She walked slowly to the crib to tuck the baby in.
"Please let me go! Help me! Somebody help!"
She stroked his cheek. He was warm and alive. At that moment, the receiver unit in her pocket crackled to life again. Jessica froze. She was in the room. If the voice was coming from the room, she should hear it with her own ears, not through the monitor. The voice on the monitor didn't whisper this time. It screamed, "Behind you!" Jessica didn't have time to turn around. In the corner of the room, the doors of the large antique wardrobe slowly creaked open, but it wasn't clothes that spilled out. It was a thick, unnatural darkness like liquid smoke. But the real horror was under the bed. From beneath the crib, two long, pale hands shot out. They had too many joints, bending in impossible ways. The fingernails were black and jagged. The hands clamped around Jessica's ankles, cold, ice cold, like the floor of a morgue. Jessica screamed and reached for the knife, but it was too late. With a violent jerk, she was pulled to the floor. She clawed at the carpet, her nails tearing through the fabric, but the strength of the thing was overwhelming. It dragged her relentlessly toward the darkness under the crib. The most terrifying part, as she was being dragged under the bed, she saw the transmitter unit of the baby monitor sitting on the dresser. It was unplugged. It had been unplugged the whole time. The batteries lay scattered on the floor. The voice hadn't come from any technology. It had come from the darkness itself. As Jessica's torso was pulled under the crib, she looked up one last time at Sam. The 6-month-old baby pulled himself up on the bars of the crib. He looked down at where Jessica was disappearing, and he smiled. Sam's eyes were pitch black, no whites, just an endless void. "Thank you, Nanny," the baby said, but it wasn't a baby's voice, it was the raspy voice of the man. Then the darkness swallowed Jessica whole. Chapter Fulsworth, the 4th rule. When dawn broke, the rain had stopped, and a thick fog clung to the forest. The Harpers' car pulled into the driveway. Eleanor rushed out of the car and ran into the house. "I hope she didn't break the rules," Arthur said calmly, lighting a cigarette. The door was unlocked. The house was silent. They walked up to the 2nd floor. Sam's room was tidy. The baby was awake in his crib, playing with his own feet, giggling innocently. When he saw his mother, his eyes were a sparkling, innocent blue once again. On the floor lay Jessica's knife and one of her shoes. Nothing else. No blood. No signs of a struggle. Arthur Harper picked up the shoe and tossed it out the open window, deep into the forest. "Good," he said, sounding satisfied. "This one was stronger. She will sustain Sam for quite a long time." They went down to the kitchen. The yellow paper with the rules still sat on the table. Arthur took a red pen from his pocket and added a new line at the bottom. This was for the next nanny. 4. If you hear scratching sounds coming from inside the walls, ignore them. It is just mice in the pipes. Behind the wall, in the narrow space between the bricks and the plaster, Jessica tried to scream with her last breath. She was alive, but she was now part of the house. Her voice could now only be heard through the baby monitor, and she was waiting for the next victim. The end.